put it over here. What do you say? And then look at the hair of this. Oh my goodness. All right. And then, oh wait, can I share a screen? I can share a screen. Let's do that. Let's read this, shall we? Okay. Do I have it? Yeah, I think I do. Well, hello, Crime Stoppers. Yes, I have that, so you can see it, and everybody can see it. Everybody happy. Here's something that's fun: a quick guide to sovereign citizens. And this is why they've been losing, by the way, in courts because of their ignorance of the law, and they enjoy swimming in this ignorance. All right, let's just read the thing. And you'll see at the end that the copyright allows me to read the thing. This is a quick guide to sovereign citizens. UNC School of Government, that's a University of North Carolina, revised November 2013. This is 12 years old. They haven't gotten much better, I promise. Note, much of the information for this paper was provided by detectives Rob French and Corey Flowers of the Greensboro, North Carolina Police Department. And notice how it doesn't say North Carolina. Notice how it says NC. Could they not spell out North Carolina? Amy Funderbunk, wait a minute, Police Department, Amy Funderburk of the NC Administrative Office of the Courts, and David Adenolfi of the North Carolina, oops, it doesn't say North Carolina, it says NC Attorney General's Office. And they're going to tell you that none of that matters, that the difference, there's no difference between state of North Carolina and North Carolina state. And there's no difference between county of Maui and, anyway, just read this. This is going to be fun. What is a sovereign citizen? In case you didn't know. So they're going to tell you what a sovereign citizen is. A sovereign citizen is a catch-all phrase referring to a variety of anti-government individuals and groups who share common beliefs and behaviors. The organizations, which may be sovereign citizens, belong. Oh, wait a minute. The organizations to which, fine use of English, many sovereign citizens belong have a variety of names. Moorish Nation, the Aware Group, Washita Nation, never heard of those guys. The North Carolina American Republic, Republic of the United States of America. Oh, really? Republic of the United States of America? That's a sovereign citizen group? Okay. Because American citizens are in fact sovereign. Would any one of you guys like to debate me on the fact that American citizens, capital C, are sovereign? Anybody? Put a comment below. The same views may be embraced by freemen, freemen on the land, Sons of Liberty, the Aryan Nation. Let's lump us in with neo-Nazis. Many, and actually those aren't even neo-Nazis, those are Nazis. Many sovereign citizens may not affiliate with any of those groups. Oops, that's it. That's the whole sentence. Many sovereign citizens may not affiliate with any of those groups. In one way or another, though, all sovereign citizens, whether tied to an organization or not, adhere to the view that the existing American governmental structure, including the courts and law enforcement, is illegitimate, and that they, the sovereign citizens, retain an individual common law identity, exempting them from authority from those fraudulent government institutions. You may want to watch this video that my son and I, my younger boy, who has a 5-star passport, put together. And there's going to be more on the password protected page. Oh, and let's check this. I always have to check this because I always seems to have my volume turned down. And then I notice my fans, for the first time in a long time, suddenly are on. Okay, but let's see. Sound. Did they? Yep, they always, me, my computer, somebody always turns it down. All right, got a sound check going. That should be better. And then why are my fans going? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's kill as many of these as possible. Perhaps that will help. Let's get rid of that. Have you guys seen the price of silver of late? It seems to be a little high. Last I checked, it was 48.29. They've tried really hard to push it back under 48 today, and they couldn't do it. Somebody said the Chinese. Was it the Indians or the Chinese that kidnapped Mr. Slammy? Mr. Slammy seems to have been kidnapped. Dear, what will we do? Oh, there's just no time to be joking around. Mr. Slammy seems to be missing because Mr. Slammy has been slamming the markets forever and a day, and of late he doesn't seem to be around because look at us at $48 and change. Anyway, all right, back to this. Sovereign citizens may issue their own driver's licenses and vehicle tags. No, they may not. Create and file their own liens against government officials who cross them. Question judges about the validity of their oaths. Why would we question a judge about the validity of their oath? In fact, I think it was Anne Vandersteel, who I have a bone to pick with her bullshit about burning flags. You weren't raised right if you burn a flag. I have family members who may or may not have been raised right, who died so that your dumbass could burn a flag if you wanted to. And I have, well, actually, they're all dead now, but the ones that are living, if you would have asked them down at the Veterans Hall where they were getting drunk, whether people should be allowed to burn the flag to a fucking man, at least in Illinois, in the Veterans Hall that I was at, would tell you that, yeah, that's part of the reason why they thought they were fighting and dying, for freedom. And so that these fraudulent bastards could write letters like this that I'm reading to you. Because it's fraud, it's all fraud. Their fucking oaths of office don't seem to exist. Like I said, and trying to find oaths of office for the administration that just spent 4 years fucking this nation and don't seem to be able to find them. And then I ask a silly question like, hey, can I see your oath of office? Oh, yeah, the clerk of the court has it. Then the clerk of the court hands me a piece of paper that was actually offended me, that they would think that was an oath of office. Let's see here. Signature not notarized, no anti-bribery statement. But, questioning judges about the validity of their oaths, these crazy sovereign citizens. Challenging the applicability of traffic laws to them, and in extreme cases, resort to violence to protect their imagined rights. Our rights are imagined, according to the fuckers over here in NC. They're not even in North Carolina. They're just in NC. Show this to that one fucking sheriff down in Florida. That four-eyed fuck. They speak an odd quasi-legal language and believe that not capitalizing names, because we read the fucking law and we know the difference between capito, diminutio, maxima, minima, and media. And apparently they don't, and they're pleased to tell you that they don't. This odd quasi-legal language. Anyway, they believe that by not capitalizing names and writing, ever heard of E.E. Cummings? And by writing in red and using certain catchphrases, they can avoid any liability in our judicial system. I'll tell you, my son doesn't get invited to court. So yeah, he's avoiding liability. They even think they can lay claim to vast sums of money held by the United States Treasury based on the premise that the government has secretly pledged them as security to the country's debts. That makes it sound like that isn't true. That makes it sound like the government hasn't secretly pledged you. Because you can see the system of pledging if you pull up your birth certificate and do a little research. I found the bonds on my name. Based on these beliefs, no, we have facts and evidence. You guys have some beliefs and a twisted understanding of the Uniform Commercial Code, which you should completely ignore. Listen, you'll see. The Universal Commercial Code, it's been codified in the law in all 50 states, but it's a twisted understanding that we have. Then they try various schemes that they think discharge them from the responsibility for their debts. Hmm. Yeah, I can tell there's going to be quite a few lies mixed with truth in here. At their at their most harmless, at their most harmless, sovereign citizens are cranks who talk what seems like gibberish to cops and magistrates and judges, and then become law abiding when they face real legal trouble. At a different level, they have many severe, wait a minute, at a different level, they may severely burden the courts and other government offices with the filing of hundreds and hundreds of pages of nonsensical documents. And at their very worst, they may resort to deadly force to defend their strange beliefs. Now they're going to tell you what we believe, assuming that, I'm a sovereign citizen. I've been accused of, they have tried to defame me with this bullshit. See, but my sons, they got 5-star and 4-star passports. And I'm going to have a web page that's going to tell you that no, it does not. That's not a get out of a jail free card. But pretty much everything I'm reading you here should make you laugh, except for the fact that prosecutors and cops take this document seriously. And basically, what they do and what you enjoy doing, and what most Americans enjoy doing, is wallowing in your Philistine pig ignorance, where you don't even fucking know the meanings of the words. And most of you can't even teach your fucking kids to multiply. Although the myriad sovereign citizen groups and individual, again, fine use of English. Although the myriad sovereign citizen groups and individuals not tied to a particular group all have their own idiosyncrasies and in their beliefs, they tend to share some common ideas. The first is that there are two classes of citizens within the United States. One class is sovereign or de jure citizens, or the original citizens of the states, and the second class, first created by the 14th Amendment, is federal or US citizens. Sovereigns, so what they're trying to tell you is that this isn't true. There's only one class of Americans, right? And that you didn't volunteer and you didn't surrender your rights unknowingly and unwittingly when you signed documents fraudulently. And certainly your mom or your dad was happy to surrender all your rights to the United States corporation. You wouldn't want those silly, unalienable, God-given rights when you could have privileges that could be taken away at any time from a corporation. I mean, that's crazy talk. Sovereign citizens enjoy all the rights of the Constitution, but federal citizens do not. This is true. Walk into a fucking court of law and talk about the Constitution and see what they say to you. Because guess what? 1 through 8 do not apply. And you're not a party to that document. We'll skip over that part. Okay, let me start back a little bit. Sovereign citizens enjoy all the rights of the Constitution, but federal citizens do not. Is that a lie? Federal citizens, the sovereigns believe, have bargained away their freedoms by accepting benefits from the United States government. See, they try to write that like that's not a true sentence. That's absolutely what you did. Your cup of porridge, your fucking donut. Much of what the sovereigns do is intended to rescind or denounce that federal citizenship and reclaim their common law sovereign citizen status with all its rights. Okay? That helps explain why they refuse to get driver's licenses, because I don't fucking need one to travel from point A to point B upon God's green earth. I don't need the fucking permission of bureaucrats from NC or FL or AZ or HI. Because I have the right that was given to me by God Almighty to travel about the planet how I see fit, without the need to get a license, which would be saying that what I'm doing is otherwise illegal. You fucks, we have woken up. Or register vehicles. Does that say cars? Does that say automobiles? Does that say conveyances? Ooh, they're going to talk about conveyances later. Don't use the word conveyance. Reject Social Security, avoid using zip codes, and may not pay taxes. I haven't paid taxes since before 2000. because those are all forms of contracting with the government and accepting their lesser class of federal citizenship. True statement. Couched in a paragraph that makes it sound like crazy talk. So many people have figured out that, yeah, you can rescind those contracts. You can, and some of those contracts are void ab initio because they were fraudulent to begin with. But these guys in NC can't figure any of that out. Reconstruction history is important to many sovereign citizens, but it shouldn't be important to you. In fact, read about Reconstruct, skip all over that. And don't teach your kids about it either. 1871, 1850, 18, let's not go back too far. 1871, 1865, 1861, 1860, 1857. I skipped 1858, then 1857, 1855, 1848, 1847. What's important about those dates? What happened? We had a little war, a little civil war. And a few things led up to it. And there were a couple of Dred Scott, a couple other cases. And then after the Civil War and after 1871 and the incorporation, then they had a few, the Supreme Court had some issues with, we seem to have these people that we can't really call citizens. What are we going to do? Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll enslave everybody. That'll fix things. We won't tell them. And if they figure it, 1 in 10,000 will figure it out. And then we'll write papers like this to put them back to sleep once they start to figure out the fact. And then there's the slaughterhouse cases. Perhaps you should read a few of those. Because I guarantee you that whoever wrote this never read Dred Scott, never read the slaughterhouse cases. Supreme Court cases in history? You're silly. Just go get your license and kowtow when you go to court and pay whatever they tell you. And your life will be happy. Otherwise, their view is that the governments established in southern states after the Civil War were imposed against the will and without the consent of the citizens and are not lawful. These sovereigns distinguish between the original state, of which there are citizens, and the false and illegitimate state that occupies the same territory. It's not a false and illegitimate state. It is a federal contracting state. In other words, you have to contract with them. And it does have a operating territory that is exactly the same as the de jure states, such as, let's take Maricopa County. Yeah, that's where I'm right now. That's the land. But then there's this corporation called County of Maricopa, which does everything it can to hide the fact that they're a corporation and try to make you think that they're the same thing. In fact, they do business as County of Maricopa. There's this other county known as County of Maui that makes you try to think that they are legitimate by calling themselves County of Maui, but when you deal with them, they say, it's Maui County, because you're too stupid to know the difference between Maui County and County of Maui, or Maricopa County and County of Maricopa. It's the same thing, right? These sovereigns distinguish between the original state, of which there are citizens. I like that. The of which. Somebody here actually at least went to school for a little while. See, here's what happened. Back in the day, they didn't have TV and radio so much. So they had to teach people how to read so that they could fool them with words. And because the way you were going to get news was with papers. And it would show up. All you'd have to do is open your front door and there'd be a pile of paper there with all kinds of stuff on it. And they told you what was happening. And you believed it was, you didn't, but your parents and our grandparents believed it was true. Whatever was written, I mean, come on, they wrote it down. It must be true, right? These are people that had, I guarantee you, they put their masks on and took their shots and then tried to get everybody else in NC to put their masks on and stand on stickers 6 feet apart and put hand sanitizer on constantly and quiver behind masks. Those are the people that wrote this for you. And as already mentioned, they view the 14th Amendment as the source of the new separate class of federal citizenship. Federal. What does federal mean? Look up the word federal. Yes, you have a contract with them. The contract is void ab initio if you go ahead and void it, but it remains in force if you stand silent. Now, you didn't complain, so you must be consenting. You never say nothing. And if you don't say it right, we're going to brand you as a sovereign citizen and give you as much trouble. And you're going to see here a few things. This will be good. Just stay with me. Watch at 2 times speed. Oh, bro, you guys typing like motherfuckers over here, and I haven't been. Wow, okay. Holy cow, look at all this. All right. And I can barely read these because they're so small. However, I have been sun gazing, and I noticed that now, even though I can't zoom in, I can read these in the fine print. Absolutely. Why would you show dishonor to the judge? Why would you even be in there in the first place? Yeah, there's a couple of what do you call Bible passages about perhaps you shouldn't be offering these men respect that they don't deserve. But anyway, we'll skip that. License is permission. Yes, there you go. Okay, I'm not coming back here anytime soon because you guys just distract me and you don't really say anything. So anyway, feel free to chat among yourselves. All right, and I'm reading from a different page that doesn't have this on there clearly, so I can't even see the chat. All right, where was I? I was, as already mentioned, they view the 14th Amendment as the source of the new separate class of federal citizenship because it is, you ignorant motherfuckers. Go take a look at the work that Brandon Joe Williams has done, and then Mansa, and then Lone Wolf. And by the way, and I found this very interesting. I think he charges like $3 for some information behind paywalls, or that you won't get unless you pay the money. $3. If you can't afford that, $3. Okay, and that's all it is the looky-loos. You won't even cough up $3, and some of that information turned out to be really good information, and it was $3. And you wouldn't have got it anywhere else. And I've been studying this shit since the 90s, and he showed me some new stuff for $3. Okay. A second significant tenet for sovereign citizens, blending with the distinction between sovereign and federal citizens, is that when the federal government abandoned the gold standard in the 1930s, 1933 to be exact, it substituted its citizens as collateral for the country's debts by pledging each citizen's future earnings to foreign investors. Is there a falsity in that statement? That's what happened. They're not specific, but that's exactly what happened. They're trying to make it sound like, oh, that's crazy talk. That's what happened. They took the gold out of the peasants' pockets and then they freaking pledged the peasants. Actually, they didn't pledge the peasants. They tricked the peasants into pledging themselves. They got the mommies to inform on their own children. As with all other aspects of sovereign ideology, the details can vary considerably, but generally the explanation for how this happens is that a secret United States Treasury account is set up for each citizen at birth. It's no fucking secret. It's called the public trust. It's the Public Social Security Trust. Look it up. Some large sum of money placed in it or pledged to it, ranging from hundreds of thousands of dollars, 630,000 is a common number, to millions, depending on which sovereign citizens group version you hear. I looked up my bonds and I didn't know this was going to be in here, or I would show you my bonds. Because, yes, they placed bonds on me the day right after I was born. Using my social security number, you can look up your own bonds if you know how to do it. And you'll see that, yeah. And my bonds are mature already because they were 40-year bonds. So they matured in 2004. They've been mature for 20 years and they won't fucking give them to me. And I've looked up other numbers using my security, the GMI utility, and that utility has been taken down, so you can't use the thing anymore. But I showed my girlfriend, another friend of mine, several other people, give me your social security number. Let's see how many millions of dollars in bonds they've written. And sure as shit. And I have the screenshots. As a consequence, they say two separate identities are created. The corporate shell account, the one pledged as security, is the straw man. Don't use straw man, but anyway, to which sovereign citizens refer, in their view, is separate and distinct from their true flesh and blood identity. So what they're basically trying to say, are you lying liars trying to lie and say that they're the same thing? Because mine have different birth dates, and my sons have a birth date that are many months from the day of their birth, and one, it's a different year. So if they were created on different days, how can it be the same person? And that's why we sign by, that would be the living flesh and blood, for the in legis or straw man. And see, a lot of people have figured out that the pledging and security, yeah, there's a security interest. My son was explaining it to me. See, because here's the thing, I have two boys, and they're learning a lot about all of this stuff. And then I make them explain it to me as if I'm an idiot or, a retarded 10-year-old. But I have to say, the retarded 10-year-old that wrote this used pretty good English. But they're assuming that you're ignorant, or at least as ignorant as most of the badge wearing mask wearers who read this. In sovereign citizens' view, the government controlled and enslaved straw man is evidenced by documents showing the person's name in all capital letters, birth certificates, social security cards, driver's licenses, tax forms, etc., therefore represent only the shell corporate identity, the straw man, because they are written in all caps. Explain to me what part of that's wrong. And really, you don't know the difference between all capital letters and title case and lowercase. Really, there's no difference, right? Is that what you're trying to say? That is what this document is trying to foist upon the average dim-witted, mask-wearing, diaper-faced freak who took a shot for a donut. Is that what you're trying to say? Is that they are the same thing? Because this document is starting to look like fraud to me. A sovereign citizen avoids inadvertent subjection to this false government and avoids being mistaken for a federal citizen by signing documents in a certain manner. For example, by identifying oneself as John Doe, executive trustee for the private contract trust known as John Doe, or by identifying oneself as executor for the straw man, or using a copyright symbol with the name, or saying John Doe, secured party authorized representative, attorney in fact, in behalf of John Doe C, or interspersing colons or hyphens or other odd punctuation in the name, or using the prefix noble, that would be our Moorish friends, or the suffix bel or el bay with one's name, and so on. And by the way, Moors, you don't get bay or el bay all by your lonesome. Anyway, if you know anything about the Moors, they don't bestow titles upon the ignorant. Further, I have documents that I can show you that show that, yes, I do in fact own, well, they own the legal title. They gave me equitable title, but then I went ahead and copyrighted the name, the all caps name. Yeah, so I can put a C behind it because I did, in fact, take the time to go copyright it. I also own Crouton Ramon. I also own Crouton Ramon's House of Math. Why would you do that? That's crazy talk. You wouldn't want to do that. And certainly you wouldn't want to differentiate between the all caps name and the living man. This fuckus. To further avoid inadvertent submission to the false government, the sovereign citizen may use red ink and thumbprints to documents. Put the zip code in brackets. Yeah, that would be the Four Corners rule. Or say near as part of the address. Yes, because I'm near that post office. I defy any one of you that read this document or who created this document or who thinks this document is valid to show me where United States is. Show me where the United States, because I have several friends now, one of them being Brandon Joel Williams most recently, who have not been able to find the place called United States. Where is it? We thought it was in Washington, D.C. Turns out not. So anyway, they use the zip code to make you a resident. And it turns out we are, in fact, non-resident aliens. We are not. We're alien to D.C. They're not a state. And United States Corporation has authority over that 10 square miles. And then the way they let the octopus out of the cage is by use of zip codes. And I let them know that my use of a zip code doesn't put me in United States and that I am not a resident. They already knew this. Never have been, never will be, can't be. That I'm alien. So I'm a non-resident alien. And I'm not a citizen of the United States. And I have documents from their corporation that says that I'm not citizen of the United States because I'm not citizen of the United States. Further, 18 USC 911 says that if I hold myself out to be a United States citizen and I'm not, that's a felony. And further, there's misprision of felony where these people try to make you think you're United States citizens or make you sign documents under duress as United States citizens. Oh, let's look that up just for fun. I should know that off the top of my head, and I don't. I know it's USC, 18 USC 911. That one's easy because it is 911. But then there's, let's see here. Oh, I didn't write it on that piece of paper. No contract. So see, this document here shows you in no uncertain terms that you have to treat these people like retarded children. Oh, shoot. I don't have it here? Oh, you know why? Because I think a friend of mine has it. Let's see here. Let's see, this is code after code. And see, here's the thing. I should be able to look at 18 USC 1028A. What's that? How about 31 USC 3123? That's kind of important. Ooh, how about 42 USC 408? Anyway, that's not the ones I'm looking for. And oops, I do not find it. Holy cow, it's on a piece of paper here. I wrote it down. And what it is it's misprision of felony when they try to force you to call yourself a U.S. citizen when you're not. And I should be able to spit that out, and I can't see how it is. I have Dred Scott here. Oh, there it is. There you go. 18 USC 911, and then 18 USC. I will remember this from here on out. 1622. That's subordination of perjury, where they try to get you to sign documents, perjuring yourself and telling them that you are a United States citizen so they can claim and abuse you. But let's skip over all of that. See, we've begun to read the law. This was written way, way back in time when most people were still quite ignorant, right? 2013. We've come a long way in 12 years. Like my sons have no idea. 12 years ago, yeah, this could fool you. But now it's just annoying. Okay. So, because they make it sound like these are lies when they're not lies, it's absolutely true. They bond you. You are bonded freemen. The United States corporation was set up to bond. That's what they've done. The bankers, the multi-gajillionaire bankers, they set up a corporation to bond the citizens on the North American continent and make them subject to their corporation through a system of pledging. Well, all you got to do now is read. There's no excuse for being this ignorant. In sovereign citizens' view, government-controlled and enslaved strawman is evidenced by documents showing the person's name in all capital letters, birth certificates, social security cards, driver's licenses, tax forms, etc., all of which are contracts. Notice how they don't mention the fact that you're contracting and that there's an adhesion contract there and that you have to swear that you're a U.S. citizen in order to, say, get a driver's license, and that you're swearing that you're a U.S. citizen on tax forms, and so on, and bank accounts. Okay, therefore, represent only the shell corporate identity, the straw man, because they're written in all caps. A sovereign citizen avoids inadvertent subjection to this false government and avoids being mistaken for a federal citizen by signing documents in a certain manner. For example, I already read this, but I'm reading it again. For example, by identifying oneself as John Doe, executive trustee for the private contract trust known as John Doe. Well, if you didn't set up a private contract trust as known as John Doe, then you can't be the executive trustee because they set up the trusts, not you. They stole the name. They got your mom to inform. They got the signatures. Now, did you sign any of those? You did not. So you can void those documents. They are voidable because documents and contracts made with a minor are voidable. Also, contracts made in bad faith where there is no meeting of the minds, and see, my son is starting to understand, oh, there's 7, and you should know them, 7 parts to a contract. What are the parts? Okay, so, the fact that there needs to be 2 parties, there needs to be a meeting of the minds, this one can't trick the other one. See, and that's standing on your square, which I've talked about for years now. No mischief in your contracts. And these motherfuckers have mischief in their contracts up one side and down the other. And they never tell you. So if you want to remain ignorant, and see, there's a lot of police officers now that are starting to figure out, wait a minute, this shit applies to you too. Why, yes, indeed, you do. Okay. To further avoid inadvertent submission to the false government, the sovereign citizen may use red ink and thumbprints. Now, here's the other thing, red ink. I found out that red ink actually does matter because I used to travel quite a bit. And I was traveling in foreign lands with my passport, and I had to fill out some forms and declaration. I can't remember. Anyway, and the pen that they gave me, the lady said, "Oh, here, use this one," was red. And I filled the thing out in red. This is when I was completely slave, where I might have read this document and gone, yeah, yeah, and agreed. Because I remember the first time I ever read the thing about taxes and thinking, well, this is ridiculous. And then I wrote a letter to the IRS. And that's the other thing that radicalized me. Because I just asked, hey, can you show me some stuff? And they came back with complete nonsense and did not answer my questions. We don't have to respond to interrogatories. And all I asked is, how come the words United States don't appear on the IRS letterhead? Every other agency had no issue with that. Anyway, red ink makes a big difference. So all the documents that I filled out with red ink, they wouldn't take. I had to go fill out all the documents over again because like, no, you can't fill these out in red. I was like, damn it. And I was trying to catch a plane. I remember that. So I had to find a blue pen or a black pen and then do the document over again. And I was running out of time because of my flight, but I was making declaration, and it was international. I think we were in Hong Kong on that one. Anyway, add thumbprints to documents. Yes, you need a thumbprint there because guess what? The corporate slave that they're talking about doesn't have thumbs. John Doe does not have thumbs. You do. Put the zip code in brackets. Yeah. Or say near as part of the address. Okay. There are innumerable varieties of this queer view of the law, but all are intended by the sovereign citizen to make sure you are no longer dealing with an enslaved straw man or a federal citizen, because you're not, with limited rights. You now have the real common law flesh and blood sovereign citizen in front of you. And you should see the expressions on their faces. My sons consistently remark on the fact that when they get the 5-star passport card or the 5-star thing and scan it, yeah, whoops. Now, if you're just standing there with a piece of paper that you made yourself, yeah, they may give you a hard time. Although they're supposed to recognize that, because there is no law that makes you subject to, can you do me a favor? Subject to the, what's it called? The, not fair credit. No, wait. Subject to the, Uniform Paperwork Commercial Paperwork Reduction Act. Somebody type it. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, my favorite thing about this, you'll see in just a second. All right. So sovereign citizens' views about the straw man and treasury account also help explain their fascination with the Uniform Commercial Code, which has been codified and documented in every single state and applies to all commercial transactions. Because see, under 6, when you put the thing away, can you bring me the document that's on there, on the paper, it's on the fridge? Yes, the PayPal document. What kind of paper is that written on? Is that regular letter paper, or does that happen to be legal paper? Oh, look, it's legal size paper. How come it's legal size? Oh, because this is a legal document. And this comes from a company called PayPal. And see, it's signed by PayPal because their logo's on it. There's nobody signing it. See, when you start to learn about contract law, you look at this and go, and you'll notice that nothing in here is in boxes except for the account summary and the payment information. Everything else is not boxed. Is there a 4 corners rule? And I don't have the book here. It's called the Chicago Manual of Styles. But, you shouldn't use that. What you should use is just this regular size paper, which will let you know that they're doing private bar business. Because certainly they're not legal documents, are they? Because they're not on legal size paper. So using some logic and reasoning, you must not be involved in that must be some other world that you're in. Anyway, sovereign citizens' views about the straw man and treasury account also help explain their fascination with the Uniform Commercial Code. Yes, I am fascinated with the law. Because if you read the Uniform Commercial Code, yes, it ties them down and makes it so that the mischief in their contracts can be made plain and that you can get remedies and be made whole. They tend to believe that filing a UCC financing statement they tend to believe that by filing a UCC financing statement, they can establish their superior right, it's called a claim, to that treasury account. Having established such a right, they can create bonds, which they tender to creditors as payment of their debts. Why, yes, there seems to be, Mansa is doing quite a few courses about how he's done exactly this and beat quite a few bar attorneys. But you have to be doing it right, and you have to be able to stand on your square. You have to be able to defend your paperwork because it's here, not here. As they read the UCC, Wait. Having established such a right, they can create bonds which they tender to creditors as payment of their debts. As they read the UCC, if the creditor wrongly refuses to accept this tender of sovereign debt, the sovereign debtor is discharged from any responsibility. There are various other UCC schemes as well that involve security agreements, hold harmless agreements, birth certificate bonds, and various UCC forms. My younger boy is now starting to figure out, wait a minute, so he ordered a bunch of birth certificates and he will be using those bonds. But there is a and he's doing some fuck around and find out kind of stuff. He wants to see what works and what doesn't work. And again, before you do that, you better get yourself a 5-star passport, because if you are subject to them and you run afoul, they could arrest you. Whereas he will be able to say, "Oh, sorry, right? Hold harmless." Without recourse. Anyway, again, the beliefs and practices can vary considerably from group to group and person to person. But once you're familiar with the ideas, you are more likely to realize you are dealing with a sovereign citizen. A sovereign citizen named Fred Jones may say, "I am agent of Fred Jones," to inform you that he is not the corporate entity strawman Fred Jones. And notice how they changed the cases here. And thus is beyond the court's jurisdiction. Sovereign citizens may want to bring their own court reporters to court proceedings. I highly recommend you bring your own court reporters to court proceedings. There will be talk about common law, about admiralty law, and about oaths of office. A sovereign citizen may carry a copy of Black's Law Dictionary as a reference resource for their common law views. You wouldn't want to know what the words mean. I mean, carrying around the Black's Law Dictionary, that seems extreme. And then referencing it to say, "Oh, that's what these words mean. You use these words." Yeah, this is crazy talk. You're reading a dictionary. Badges. We don't need no stinking badges. Dictionaries. We don't need no stinking dictionaries. For those who identify themselves as Moorish nation or something similar, there also is belief that a 1787 treaty, which 1787 treaty are they referring to? Fictitious. Between the United States and Morocco grants them immunity from U.S. law. Was there a treaty of peace or wasn't there? And was Morocco not the first nation to recognize United States of America? That was 1787, because this whole United States, and you'll also notice that between the United States and Morocco, right? It doesn't say United States of America. It just says United States. I don't think the person here was clever enough to know what they were writing, but they might have been. Some may claim to occupy United Nations Indigenous Peoples Seat 215. There is no such thing. And create their own birth certificates and passports in addition to driver's license and vehicle registrations. You may create your own birth certificates. You may not create your own passports. Well, you can, but there's a whole other thing. Because guess what? Slojamistan has its own passport. So people went down that rabbit hole and found out, right? And creating your own birth certificate, yeah. If you have multiple witnesses and family Bible, yeah, there's no law that says you have to fill out one of their forms and surrender your rights. I can assure you that none of my grandchildren are going to have birth certificates. And they will be recognized, and we are going to set up trusts for them. And they will have numbers, but they won't be under the control of any corporate bureaucrat from United States. Now, why would you even make your own vehicle registration? Why not just get the manufacturer certificate of origin, MSO, and tell them that, yeah, I'm not giving you my car. And I'm not using it for commerce, so you can't have my car. Anyway, sovereign citizens tend to believe this in squatters' rights. Do we? And have been known to move into houses that have been foreclosed and abandoned. They will fix the place up and have utilities turned on, then will file documents they believe confirm the new ownership of the property. Way back in the day, actually, my father apparently used to do this in Chicago and became the owner of some pretty pricey real estate in Chicagoland because there is a whole system. There is a whole, I mean, they do it all the time, but they hate it when we find out about it. But anyway, if you've got foreclosed and abandoned property, you can, in fact, get the title transferred to you if you're going to see, because in the law, what they're doing, they're not letting you steal property. What they want is they don't want abandoned property in the middle of cities. So if you're going to take this piece of property and fix it back up and turn it into something, livable and usable, as opposed to it being foreclosed and abandoned, they actually look favorably upon that. But they do not look favorably upon people stealing property. Anyway, the point to remember is that whatever circuitous, I like it, fine use of English again, an illogical route that they take to get there, there is no point in trying to find a consistency or a rational pattern in their beliefs. Yeah, just read the fucking law. Sovereign citizens reject the current federal, state, and local governments and consider themselves outside their authority. Ironically enough, at the same time, they file paper after paper with the courts whose legitimacy they deny, seeking to vindicate their common law rights. Just got into an argument with a Hawaiian about this. We're not going into their courts. I'm not filing paperwork after paperwork. They asked me to come to court, and I filed some paperwork. Other than that, I don't send paperwork to their courts, other than to maybe notice or inform them. But yeah, you should. It's exactly, makes sense to me, actually. Why would you want to go fight in their courts? See, my son, like I said, you can watch on, you'll be able to see this on my website here soon. They just don't invite him. Why don't they invite? They don't want him to come to court. North Carolina appellate cases. There are a few state appellate court decisions debunking sovereign citizens' arguments because sovereign citizens almost always represent themselves, because we're not infants that require representation, and either do not appeal the trial court decisions against them or are unable to perfect an appeal properly. Yeah, because a lot of the old sovereign citizens, quote unquote sovereign citizens, didn't know what the fuck they were doing in courts and didn't know how to perfect their claims and so forth. That's all changed in 12 years. Also, most of the arguments they make are so obviously frivolous, that you have God-given unalienable rights and that jurisdiction once challenged must be proven, and that the plaintiff is the one that has to prove, not the defendant. Oh, and little things like, agency agreements. But so obviously frivolous, the fact that you don't have an oath of office that's valid, because, see, there's law that you can read that says this is what makes a valid oath of office. And you can look up the law that says that this, okay, and there's stuff in your own state also, but you wouldn't want to look at that. Anyway, also, most of the arguments they make are so obviously frivolous that the courts feel free to reject them without much explanation. Now, here's the thing about the judges and the courts. They can make any choice decision they want. They don't have to justify. That's in their codes. That's in the other codes. That's if they were, quote unquote, absolutely legitimate common law courts, they don't have to give you justification for their decisions, but neither do the guys in the, say, superior court, the corporation that masquerades, right? The guys that are in Article 1. See, because this person probably doesn't understand the concept of Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. And see, there's the administrative branch, and then there's the judicial branch way over here. Anyway, so yeah, if you read a little bit about the government, you'll probably be quite a bit ahead of this person here, or these persons who wrote this, these detectives who spent lots of time putting this together. And again, fine use of English, fellows. There are a few state appellate court decisions debunking sovereign citizens' arguments because sovereign citizens almost always represent themselves and either do not appeal to trial court decisions against them or are unable to perfect an appeal properly. There's a clue for you. Also, most of the arguments they make are so obviously frivolous that the courts feel free to reject them without much explanation. There are, though, at least 2 North Carolina court appeals opinions discussing and rejecting a sovereign citizen's arguments about the trial court's lack of jurisdiction over him. The opinions, both involving the same defendant, are State v. Phillips and State v. Phillips 2. Phillips was a dork who never got a 5-star passport. And this happened in 2002. He also didn't do his paperwork correctly, and he was also, at the time, basically a U.S. citizen. So the court absolutely had jurisdiction over him, since he had told the courts that he was a U.S. citizen. Anyway, go read the cases. It's fun. State v. Phillips. The first opinion includes the more detailed discussion of the defendant's assertions about jurisdiction. For the most part, the second opinion refers back to the first opinion. Then Phillips v. Wood in 2004, the federal district court rejected the same defendant's attempts to sue the state judges and magistrate for their actions in connection with his state convictions. I give the guy credit for trying, but he was barking the wrong way. All right, names of their organizations. 2 of the most prevalent sovereign citizen groups in North Carolina are the Moorish Nation, oddly enough, because there were a lot of slaves in North Carolina at one time, and there still are quite a few Negroes who they tried to trick into thinking came over on slave ships, but actually they were already there. The Moors were already in the Tennessee River Valley, Mississippi River Valley, and all these different river valleys, growing food and sending it down the Mississippi River and across the Atlantic back to Morocco. This was the breadbasket. Okay, the Washita Nation, those would be Indians, I believe. I don't know about the Washita Nation. Moorish Nation adherents may refer also to Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Republic, United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, Mu'ur Republic, or other variations. These are mostly all blacks, by the way. Most of these people will be dark-skinned. Moorish sovereigns tend to be black and, ooh, look, the next sentence. Moorish sovereigns tend to be black and younger. Many get started on this path in prison. Oh, look, all the sovereign citizens, they're prisoners. So, yeah, anyway, the Washita Nation, a Moorish branch, is tied to a group in Poverty Point, Louisiana. White supremacist organizations such as the Aryan Nation may embrace sovereign citizen ideology as well. So too may freemen and related groups. That would be out Oregon way. Organizations such as the North Carolina American Republic in the Mooresville area, the Embassy of Heaven, Aware Group, and Carolina Liberty also sometimes are listed as sovereign citizens. But at least some of them may say they are different. The North Carolina American Republic, for example, distinguishes itself as believing in it is the real sovereign state of North Carolina, rejecting the notion of separate sovereign rights for individuals. Their particular fantasy is that the state government put in place by the Reconstruction Acts is invalid and that they have reestablished the legitimate government of the state. Accordingly, the North Carolina American Republic has named its own governor, legislature, etc. It's a different route than the one followed by Sovereign Citizen, but leads to the same self-serving conclusion that the established state institutions do not have jurisdiction over them. The pirates enjoy writing legalities to make their pirating legal. Not all sovereign citizens affiliate with any particular organization. My grandma said, don't be a joiner. Individuals may access sovereign citizen theory and documents easily through the internet. And not surprisingly, there are any number of vendors of driver's licenses, license tags, pleadings, and other papers who are glad to sell their wares to anyone who sees in them a means to be free from traffic tickets, debts, and taxes and other government obligations. See, because what they're trying to do is defend their victimless crime. You did something and now you've got to give us money. Oh, and you don't like that? Well, we're going to try and shoot you, and we're going to tell these other people that you're sovereign citizens. We're going to call you names. Like I said, as I've told my sons, treat these people as if they are retarded 10-year-olds. These happen to be retarded 10-year-olds with some decent language skills. Identification. Sovereign citizens may drive vehicles. How come? Why won't you say car? Why won't you say automobile? Why do you say vehicle? Why do you use the word vehicle? See, that I know you're using the word vehicle on purpose because you're lying, fraudulent motherfuckers, which they will call conveyances. Well, you have to call them what we call them, or you're in trouble. It's a fucking car. Right? Charlie Kirk, yeah, I left it in my vehicle. No fucking teenager or 20 something or 30 something calls it a vehicle. It's a fucking car. With odd license tags and registration documents. The license tag might say Republic of North Carolina or something along those lines, or Kingdom of Heaven, or Washita Nation, or Washita Trustee, or a variation on those or other organizational names mentioned above. How about private vehicle? How about private conveyance? How about getting the one that Joel Listica talks about, and so does Brandon Joe Williams, wherein the Department of Transportation gives you a number. There's a way of going about it. And then I can also tell you that if you don't want to go about all of that, get your 5-star passport and they pretty much will leave you alone. And if they don't, put bonds on their weapons. And if you don't know how to do any of that, well, maybe you shouldn't be playing this game. And maybe you're better off just being a U.S. citizen. See, because all of this comes with huge amounts of knowledge and reading and study, most of which the police officers don't want to do. Your average hairdresser in North Carolina has more training than your average police officer or detective. Care to make the bet, any of you guys in law enforcement? Calling yourselves law enforcement officers? You are statute merchants working for Masons, many of whom are pedophiles. And see, the thing that's pissing me off is that many people have figured out that we're not kidding. Yes, they're pedophiles. Yes. And you still buy their music. You still pay them taxes. You still go to their movies. But wait, I don't want to go down that road. We'll skip it. Okay. Where was I? Or variation on those organizational names mentioned above. A common license tag and registration will say Muur Republic and have a United Nations symbol with the words Indigenous National or something similar. In other words, the Indians are getting a little tired. Also, look for the words private registrant. Sovereign citizens also tend to put gold stickers on documents and use multiple notary stamps. Sovereign citizens typically carry their own unique driver's licenses. No, don't carry a unique driver's license. Carry a 5-star passport card. Just as with the vehicle tags, the driver's license may be issued in the name of the Washita Nation, North Carolina American Republic, or whatever particular sect the person has chosen. Some groups issue what appears to be a passport from a foreign government. But on closer examination, the issuer is of the Muur Republic or Isis Abagnaki Aboriginal Nation or other make-believe government. Your government is just as make-believe as theirs. One common factor in much sovereign citizen identification, particularly for blacks, is the inclusion of Bay or El Bay in the person's name, such as John Doe El Bay. See, I was actually going to ask for an L certification from the Moors, because by now I am, in fact, a teacher of mathematics. But anyway, in addition to this contrived identification of the sovereign citizen, wait a minute. In addition to this contrived identification, the sovereign citizen may carry a legitimate state driver's license. When stopped by an officer or otherwise asked by an official for identification, the person may produce a fictitious driver's license first, but then when backed into a corner, will pull out the real license, the real one. See, I had a fun time with some park rangers one time, and I was driving a federal vehicle. And when you get a federal driver's license, the federal driver's license is a piece of paper that's signed and so forth, but it's literally a piece of paper. Go ahead and freaking duplicate that or forge that or whatever. And if you get busted, see how much trouble you get into. you won't see the light of day for quite some time. Anyway, I had a paper license from that allowed me to drive that big white vehicle. And when I showed it to them, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "That's a federal driver's license. It allows me to drive that vehicle." "Well, don't you have a state driver?" "I don't need a state driver's license. You asked me if I had a license to drive that vehicle, and I do." Anyway, it went from there, and they wound up trying to write me a ticket for walking on the land, which I never paid. And anyway, it's a long story. But if you read this, you'd think that I was a crazy person, and that they would have hauled me off, and I should have paid it, and that it's just mystery and magic that I didn't wind up paying them a fucking dime for walking on the land. That they can't prove to the Hawaiians, by the way, that they have any deed or title to Haleakala National Park, because they ain't got none. And when pressed, kind of like their oaths of office, they can't produce because there isn't one. And asking for that makes you a crazy sovereign citizen, right? In addition to this contrived identification, the sovereign citizen may carry a legitimate state driver's license. Right? Oh, we just got there. Some sovereign citizens have gotten regular state driver's license issued to them with their LBay name, so they may file a document with the registrar of deeds purporting to change their name to LBay, believing that such a filing is all they need to do. And so they seem to be telling you right here that clearly that's not all you need to do. Some citizens will dress in what looks like law enforcement uniform and will carry a badge identifying themselves as county rangers. First I've heard of this. Okay. I wouldn't do this. Sounds like a really bad idea to me, but all right. Perhaps there are those running around being county rangers. Look at me, I'm a ranger, dressed up in costumes. I can assure you that it's not going to be too much longer before the men that used to dress up in costumes don't dress up in costumes anymore. In what's the first thing they did in Russia? And what's the first? Name the place where it falls over. In Eastern Germany. What's the first? They burned there. They hid there. They made. I wasn't ever. It wasn't me. That'll never happen here, though, right? There's hundreds of millions and only thousands of them, and the millions are waking up. And they're doing everything they can to put the millions back to sleep, but the millions seem to be waking up in larger and larger numbers. So what do? They'll put out false information for you. They'll put out information that's based on pie in the sky bullshit instead of the actual law that you can read anywhere. And then when you apply the actual law to your situation and you learn the maxims, you'll see that, yeah. Below are some unusual words or phrases or manner of punctuation or writing that are commonly used by sovereign citizens, reflecting their beliefs. Some of the words are legitimate legal terms in the proper context, but are meaningless in the way that they are used by sovereign citizens. That actually could be a true statement. For example, the Uniform Commercial Code indeed exists and is important law for commercial transaction, but it has none of the purposes ascribed to it by sovereign citizens, which would be what? I notice you don't tell us what those ascribed purposes are. It would take a long time to explain why sovereign citizens speak and write the way they do, or the meanings of these particular words. Just be aware that the recurrence of these ways of communicating is one indicator that the person is a sovereign citizen. So yeah, don't use straw man, de facto government, conveyance rather than vehicle. How about a car? Is it a fucking automobile? References to the UCC, which absolutely apply to all situations and their bonds and their courts. The United States government is 100% commercial. IRS forms 1099 OID. I'd stay the fuck away from those. Anyway, traveling in a commercial capacity. Yeah. Are you traveling in a commercial or private capacity? Aboriginal. Who is the victim? Why would it matter if there was a victim? Just pay us money. A C after a person's name. Yeah, if you've copyrighted your name, put the C there. If you haven't actually gone and copyrighted the name, don't put the C there. Crouton Ramon is copyrighted. Ben H. Rogers, copyrighted. Crouton Ramon's House of Math, copyrighted. In fact, it's trademarked. The trademark has expired, but I already paid the trademark. And if somebody else tries to use it, it's a going concern. I continue to use it. I don't feel the need to pay the corporation continuously. Employer ID number rather than SSN. Reference to HGR 192. How many times have I told you, don't reference HGR 192? You will get special treatment. And that's number one. UN Indigenous People Seat 215. A use of near with zip code. I use near with zip code because I am not in the zip code. I am near that zip code. The flag is planted over there. I have a peace flag. And if I'm not using the peace flag, I'm using this other flag. And that one will really get you in trouble. Let's see here. Special trust deposit. Dishonor in commerce. Thumbprints on documents. I'd put a thumbprint on documents. Remember when they were trying to make you put thumbprints on documents when you were at banks and so forth? And then there was that whole fight the print thing. Because, yeah, they can't keep track of your data. Man on the land. Indigenous. Non-resident alien. Yeah, that's actually a term you should learn and figure out how to apply to your situation because you are a non-resident alien of Washington, D.C. Traveling in a private capacity. Use of red ink. Sui juris. Yes, I am now sui juris. Redemption. El Bay. Where is your oath of office? I know. Why would you have to show an oath of office, public servant? Why would you need that? Why would you be able to show, why we have to show UID, but you don't have to have an oath of office? Is that what you're trying to say? Are you trying to say that you don't need an oath of office to operate on others and to claim jurisdiction and to make claims? You don't have to have it. You don't have to show it. You don't have to prove that you have an oath of office. That's valid. Because I know that even IRS agents carry pocket commissions, and so do most police officers. They won't show them to you, but they have them. And most cops have a plastic card identifying them and their position. Again, they won't show them to you. Brackets around a zip code, that would be four corners rule. Domicile. The difference between domicile and residence. Chargeback notice. Debt is a transmitting utility. U.S. minor. Outlying islands. In admiralty. Accepted for value. Executor. Final solution. Free man. Final solution sounds a little dangerous. Referring to the government as a corporation because it is a private corporation with a DUNS number. Affidavit of truth. Judicial District of Tens. I don't know what that one is. Title IV flag. Maybe you should read Title IV. UCC 1 statements or UCC 1 statement. Silence is acquiescence. Silence is acquiescence. What is wrong with that? Silence is, if you don't respond, if you're silent, there's going to be a 3-step procedure used against you. Requesting an official's bond. I don't request anymore. I demand to see your fucking bonds. And if you don't have one, you better anyway. And then my favorite thing is, what are you gonna do about it, slave? Yeah, I don't have a bond, so what? Well, now there turns out there's a whole, they're so backed up, it's ridiculous though. But there's a bunch of feds that are all about this actually. And it turns out that American citizens make good money administering public officials who go far awry, thinking that they can do whatever the fuck they want with the attitude of what are you going to do about it, slave? There's a great woman. She's in Carmel, California. See, they wouldn't give me a cause of action. And I didn't feel like going out and trying to get a cause of action. But a cause of action, they never kicked me off the beach. I went to the beach. Fuck you. What are you going to do about it? No man can keep another man from going to the beach. They never wrote me a ticket. And I know there were guys that saw me and they didn't give a shit. And there was one time when I was at a Trump rally. I was not participating. I was just observing from a distance, sitting on a beach chair, minding my fucking own when I was surrounded by 3 men in masks who told me that I needed to put a mask on because they had authority over me outside under the sun. And of course, they were doing it for my own good. But again, they wouldn't give me cause of action because the document they wrote, they didn't want me in their courts. They weren't fucking cutting me slack. They didn't want me in their courts. So they wrote me a ticket for Thanksgiving Day. And the excuse they made was, you're making us look bad. And our sergeant, this black son of a bitch, who's an anti-Trump guy on Maui, apparently, was making them violate the rights of others. So, it wasn't their fault. They were being forced to violate our rights. Otherwise, they look bad. Where the fuck do you guys get off thinking that you could make us wear masks? No, I want to know. Where the fuck do you guys get off? I don't care if you're wearing a black dress, right? Trying to make us go into the courthouse with a fucking mask on. Who in the fuck do you people think you are? And now you're getting nervous because people are getting pissed off. But how fucking dare you guys? And yeah, it turns out 70% of my countrymen are fucking cowards who can't say no, who will go along to get along. I got lots of friends that they knew it was wrong, but they didn't want to stand out because they didn't want to get in trouble. Tall poppy, Ben. Tall poppy. Don't be the tall poppy. Filings. Ironically, given their views on the illegitimacy of government, sovereign citizens are prolific at filing papers with those same government offices. Well, no, I'm not. Very short one-page documents. See, them getting you to file huge amounts. Yeah, there were lots of books that you don't want to file. You don't need to, again, in the words of a man who is now deceased, who was wiser than me, named Dan Mayador from way back in the day. Don't fucking show them how smart you are. Make them show you how smart they are. So when they proceed without an oath of office, yay, you happy. When they proceed after you tell them, after you warn them, after you notice them, be happy. Because, yeah, their attitude is, what the fuck are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And see, they're counting on the fact that you don't know what to do about it. And then be aware they're murderous pedophiles who worship elder gods and require blood sacrifice. So you get a little too uppity, they may come and try and murder you while they're being all upright and so forth, writing white papers like this about how legitimate their authority is. Clerks of courts and registers of deeds are the most frequent victims. That's because we're starting to figure out that you don't do your fucking job and we sue the person, not the office. So the actual man or woman. And gee, is there a difference between the actual man or woman and the clerk of the court? How about the mayor? Does the mayor change from time to time, or is it the same mayor? Is the guy's name mayor? Or is that just a title that comes before his name or after? Like, they're just assuming that you're just dumb as fuck, and they're going to take advantage of the fact that most Americans are ignorant. And not only are they ignorant, they enjoy being ignorant. And then they use that ignorance as a cover for their cowardice. Most of the papers sovereign citizens file seek relief from criminal charges. Right, criminal charges. You were jaywalking, you criminal. You traveled with your son from point A to point B, you criminal. You were going just a little too fast, you criminal. You guys were partying at 3 a.m. and making noise, you criminal. You caught a fish, you criminal. Anyway, most of the papers sovereign citizens file seek relief from criminal charges or demand money. And many are designed to harass or intimidate public officials, which is why you should probably put this paperwork is not designed to harass or intimidate any boneheaded fuckwit public official that doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground and wants to use the law to extract money from you through fraud, trickery, and deceit. And when that doesn't work, they just use guns and clubs. A sample of the kinds of documents clerks of court and registers of deeds might expect from sovereign citizens include, this is actually good, this is an excellent laundry list right here. A notice of copyright as to the person's name, often labeled common law copyright notice. Registered warrant claim for trust special deposit. Yeah, anyway. Filings responding to traffic tickets or other charges labeled those documents as abandoned paperwork and demanding that the court official respond with authentication of authority, a certified copy of an official's oath, a certified copy of the official's bar bond, and so forth. Yeah, why would you want their bonds or oaths to make sure that they're actually legit? You don't have to respond to that. In fact, you should just operate without an oath. And don't bother getting insurance on your bonds either, or on your weapons either. Certainly, you wouldn't want to take out a personal insurance policy. That'd be crazy. Just go with the state, or maybe Maui County has a bond that you could join in on. Or perhaps Maricopa, or whatever county you're in on. Why would there even be reinsurance companies? And why would companies exist that are multi-million-dollar companies writing bonds for public officials? Well, why would those companies even exist? Anyway, a response to a traffic ticket or other charge labeled as an affidavit of specific negative averment, opportunity to cure, and counterclaim. Let me see what you want to do. They're trying to get you to be confused about the three-step process, which is notarial protest process going back to ancient times. I think the Egyptians were fucking using the three-step process. First you tell them, then you tell them again. If they don't respond in those 2 times, you notice them with dishonor, and then you go perfect your claim. It's not hard. Where do you perfect your claim? In their courts, because we don't have any courts. And since your claim is against one of their people, usually. Okay, where else was? Negative averment appears on various documents with the idea that it puts the burden on the official to respond. If I respond and you don't respond, yeah. Notice of international commercial claim within the Admiralty ab initio administrative remedy. Somebody made that up. That's way too many words. Just give them a notice. Notices of default and commercial liens and demands for payment. Express specific reservation of rights. How about you just ARR, all rights reserved? How about you just UCC 1308? Once again, all rights reserved. And maybe you put a WR on there without recourse. A certification of non-response. Yeah, I sent you documents. Now see, what they're hoping is that you're too stupid to know how to perfect the documents after they have defaulted. Because see, here's the thing. If I ask you for jurisdiction, well, once jurisdiction is, and it's all over the statutes, once you ask for jurisdiction, they kind of sort of have to prove it. And see, here's the other thing. 6th Amendment, which you don't have a right to if you're a U.S. citizen, by the way, says that you are to know the nature and cause, not just the cause, but the nature and cause of action. Why are they acting? Oh, well, the cause is always statute. You didn't do this, or you did that, or you violated this. But the nature is commercial, hence the UCC. Again, prove me wrong. You got a bar card? You got a gun and a badge? Put something down there that says, 1, you don't have to prove that you have any kind of oath of office when asked, that jurisdiction is just assumed and that nobody has to ask for that. And that you aren't required to respond. What happens if I don't respond when you write me a letter? Then you just continue on, right? Let's see here, certification of non-response, an invoice for an outrageous sum of money in the millions or billions of dollars. Let's say you held a man for 143 days without a warrant and without an indictment. Is that worth $1 million a day? And maybe you don't want to send an invoice. Maybe you want to make a claim. And then you need to know how to press the claim. The invoice could be part of your claim. There's multiple ways to play D&D. Non-negotiable declaration in the form of a trust affidavit in commerce, notice of default for notice, and demand for full disclosure. Why would they have to give you full disclosure? That's crazy talk. These fucking sovereign citizens wanting to get full disclosure. Affidavit of citizenship and domicile. Yeah, just don't pay attention to the fact that they're letting you know where they live and that they're not U.S. citizens and that they're American citizens, not U.S. citizens. Legal notice of right to travel. Notice of dishonor. Yeah, after the third time. Notice of silver surety bond. I've seen guys play with that. You're not going to get anywhere with that. Oh, asservation. Non-statutory abatement. Notice of default. Default judgment. And, praecipe. Oh, look at that. And what's that? That's I don't have it here. The court praxis. I had the book here for the longest time, but I cleaned up and now it's not here. Oh, yeah. Well, there it is. What's this? It's like a book or something. Let's see. It's common for citizens. Oh, it's common for sovereign citizens to attempt to file their documents on legal size paper. Oh, why? Why would you attempt to file your legal document? Is that a legal doc? Is this from PayPal? Is this an important account information notice on legal size paper? Is there a Paperwork Reduction Act? Does the Paperwork Reduction Act apply to non-employees? Sovereign citizens also use chargeback notice in response to bills. This message intended by the notice is that the bill will be paid by the United States Treasury from the sovereign citizen's strawman account. It is common for documents that sovereign citizens file and send to businesses, banks, and court officials to say, in effect, that failure to deny or respond is deemed by the sovereign citizen to be acceptance of their position. Because it is. If you stand silent, the other person, and you're going to try and tell me that this law doesn't apply to you. This goes back, like I said, probably to the Egyptians. So yes, it's a maxim. It's all over this day. If you don't respond, he who stands silent agrees. Period. I don't care if you have a badge. I don't care if you're a judge. I don't care if you're a fucking president of the United States. You don't respond, you're considered to agree. You got 30 days. And then a lot of times they're going to give you another 30 days. And then finally, you have defaulted. Really? You couldn't respond? Really? Because that's dishonor. It's like if somebody talks to you and you stand mute, if you ask someone their name and they don't respond, is that not considered rude? Well, in court, it's considered dishonor. And I'm not just asking for your fucking name. I'm asking for your oath of office with your name on it. It's kind of important. Some of the most troublesome activities by sovereigns are their lawsuits and liens against public officials. This I will agree. Now, you may sue if you feel that you have grounds, but a lot of times people putting liens and so forth on public, and you haven't gone through, you haven't perfected the claim, you haven't done anything. You're just going to file a lien out of the blue because the guy pissed you off. I hope you go to jail. Dumbass. You make the rest of us look stupid too. Anyway, court can deal with frivolous lawsuits through Rule 11 sanctions, contempt, and gatekeeper orders. False liens can be more difficult to address because the official often does not know until much later that it has been filed, because filing offices generally are not charged with determining the legitimacy of a document before accepting it. But I'm going to repeat that because it sounds vaguely important. And this is a little bad grammar here, but they've been using such good English that I'll give them a excuse, because false leans, it either, your subject is not agreeing. But anyway, all right. So false leans can be more difficult, right? A false lien is what they wanted to say. Take the S off. That's just a typo. Can be more difficult to address because the official often does not know until much later that it has been filed, and because filing offices, right here, I'm going to repeat this, because filing offices generally are not charged with determining the legitimacy of a document before accepting it. To help address that problem, the legislature in 2012, this is in NC, the NC legislature, enacted a new statute, GS 14-118.6, making it a Class 1 felony to knowingly present for filing a false lien or encumbrance against the property of a public officer or employee based on that person's performance of official duties. The statute subsequently has been amended to include false claims against an official's spouse or child as well. The statute also, you guys were putting putting claims against people's children and wives? Wow. That's a pissed off person, if you ask me. But don't do that. That's naughty. The statute also establishes a procedure for the Register of Deeds to reject such a filing that allows the public official to sue for treble damages under the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Law. Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Law. That sounds like commerce. That sounds like UCC to me. Why would you be using the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Law if it wasn't commerce? Oh, that's it. This paper may be used for educational purposes without permission. I never asked permission from the guys in NC if I could use it. And I was trying to educate you, so I'm using it for that purpose. Used for commercial purposes, yeah, I make no money off of this channel. Or without acknowledge it. Nope, I'm absolutely acknowledging that in 2012 and 2013, the School of Government from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill wrote this drivel for their officers, and I'm sure got a lot of their officers in trouble because, quote unquote, sovereign citizens that actually educated themselves coming against police or other officials that only had this much or a little bit more in their understanding get creamed. But most of them have figured out now, they see that 5-star passport, you continue along your way. They don't mess with it. Because if you've gone through the paperwork to get the 5-star, the other thing I understand that gives you some leeway, or I won't call it leeway, that makes it so that they don't want to mess with you, is when you've actually taken one of them to court. So take them to small claims. Put a claim on their bonds. Don't do any of the things. All the stuff in here is correct. Yeah, don't be putting liens on people that you haven't got a perfected lien. If you don't know that process, don't be a lot of these things. Don't be writing 1,000-page documents. Don't be writing 50-page documents. And I am guilty, by the way, of writing 20+ page documents. No. No more. 1 or 2 pages, 3 pages max. They know all this shit. You don't have to tell them. They know. And if they don't know, they should know. And if they don't know and they should know and they continue, then probably you're going to have a claim against them, especially if they're violating your rights. And see, what this document doesn't say anywhere in there, it doesn't warn these guys that if you violate the rights and the person can prove that you violated their rights, fucking A, you're in trouble. Like big trouble. And the numbers are astronomical. Like no fucking way is your bond going to support the judgment that's going to come against you. Because violating an American's rights is serious business. And you count on the fact that these people are ignorant and believe in your fraud. But once they figure out the fraud, and once they start filing their paperwork correctly, a lot of people still think that they can proceed with impunity and then wind up getting burnt. I am so enjoying the saga going on the beach in Carmel where they threw this lady off the beach and she wasn't having it. And now, sure enough, none of the fucking lawyers and none of the fucking bureaucrats in Carmel can come against her because she has the law on her side. She has right on her side. She has the maxims on her side. And you guys have documents like this. So people quitting their jobs, getting fired. Was it worth it? Was it worth it to violate the rights of your fellow citizens? I don't think it was. Okay. I'm sure you guys have been writing all kind of stuff, but see, I've been reading this and I haven't been distracted. Holy crap. See what I mean? Lone Wolf, you too many comments. Holy crap. I mean, way too long. Didn't read it. Let's see here. Sweet jurist and always in propria persona. Yes. Well, if you want to find out about 5-star passports, you are soon going to have. Well, actually, there's plenty of places where you can find out right now. But I'm going to have a page shortly that's going to have links to Mansa and links to Lone Wolf or not Lone Wolf, Bad Wolf. You're the Lone Wolf, and links to all manner of stuff. The Copper Moon Sign Stills. Let's see here, Brandon Joe Williams. There's lots of different people that have put stuff out about 5-star passports. But if you want to see what my sons did and the letters that they wrote and how they filled out their forms exactly, there's going to be a fee, and you go across get a password and you can go across the paywall, and then you'll see videos that I haven't cut yet, but several videos that have some information in there that you won't get in normal places. It's good because here's the other thing that my son has figured out is that the ones that know don't talk. It's very difficult to find people that actually know what's happening. And after a while, like even Mansa's gotten to the point where he's just fucking tired. I can tell Yusuf L is another one that's just gotten tired because people are so fucking stupid that it's painful. And after a while, it's just like, fuck it already. Why bother? Even Ed Dowd. Ed Dowd is another one, not on this topic, but just when it comes to shit that I can't talk about here on YouTube's. But why would he bother when he doesn't get paid and people just, right? Anyway. And see, that's another thing we got to work on is how is it possible that I can't speak freely on a platform on the North American continent? How is that possible? Clearly, we haven't been doing our work. Okay. Yes, there's something there, for fuck's sake. All right. And see, that'll be some stuff on the other side also, because, yeah, they don't want you knowing about that. All right. Just going to talk about it really briefly. Filing bankruptcy. You file bankruptcy. All right. So then you're bankrupt. Oh, so then what? Then you got to put out everybody who has a legitimate claim against you needs to put a proof of claim in. So you can put proof of claim forms out to people. And on those proof of claim forms, you might ask some simple questions like jurisdiction, prove that you're a legitimate judge, prove that you're a legitimate authority, prove your claim, prove, I don't know your situation. But if you read the law, you're going to ask them for some simple documents. Oh, I don't know, like their oath of office. And that they have a legitimate claim. So anyway, filing bankruptcy, hugely powerful because it's all commerce. And I'm not getting all the details, but just find out about, filing bankruptcy is huge. And they don't fucking tell you about filing bankruptcy. They don't want you to file bankruptcy. In the same way they don't want you to represent yourself. That's crazy. I'm not representing myself. I'm presenting myself. I may represent, I may represent, I may act as attorney in fact, not attorney at law, but attorney in fact for that all caps name, which you control. And we are not the same person. We're not the same thing. I actually wrote a letter and apologized for my mistake, wherein I thought that the all caps name and myself were the same thing, and it's not. That is myself. I am a living man. Myself, on the other hand, and see, look, living man thumbs. That's why you put thumbprints. So what do? Buy for thumbprint, raise seal. That's a living signature. That's an endorsement. See, because they just want your signature with nothing on it and naked so that they can take it and bond it. But this document, it was written semi-cleverly, but not cleverly enough. Like I said, Rob Finch, Corey Flowers, Amy Funder Burke. Really? Funder Burke? Okay, Amy. And see, you already know Amy was bullied in school. Anyway, most of these people were, which is why they joined. Anyway, David Andenoff. Yeah, these are basically people that they're not that clever. And they wrote this document trying to fool you. I'm impressed, though, because it's only one typo that I saw. And like I said, plenty of fine use of English there. But overall, this document right here, the most important part, and me was you, I'd screenshot it. And I'll try and, if you want it, I think I'm going to wind up, I'm hoping I can convert this into something that you can download from my website eventually. And I will title it something. But this is a list of things that you should take a look, especially HGR 192. I've told you about this. I never even heard about this one. People's Seat 215, no clue. I wouldn't reference it, and especially if it's on this list. However, and then again, 1099 OID, but the stuff that's on this list, if I was you, I would know the Black's Law dictionary definitions of pretty much every word on this page, or on this shot right here. Sui juris, really important. Redemption, right? All this, brackets around this, all this. Domicile, what does that word mean? Chargeback notice, what's that? Indigenous, what's that? Non-resident alien, what's that? All these terms. And wait a minute, and these ones too. Right? What's a UCC 1? And see, this is so old, UCC 1207. It's no longer UCC 1207. It's now UCC 1308. 207 is completely different now. But when this was written, they were talking about 207. And then letters of marque, fiduciary, right? Requesting official's bond. I wouldn't request. I'd demand. And they're not going to give it to you. Well, why do we have to get? And then you can send it again, and then you're going to say, well, then I'm pretty sure you don't have one. I actually got a piece of paper that purports to be a bond, or excuse me, an official oath of office, but it contains none of the elements required according to their own law. Signature not notarized. The font is completely screwed up. There is no attached documents when it comes to, say, like anti-bribery statements and so on, which are kind of crucial. So anyway, and then Title IV. Yeah, you might want to read some Title IV. Because flag law, kind of important, actually, as it turns out. You might want to know a little bit about Title IV. So you might want to read the titles. Because guess what? All 50 titles apply. And your ignorance of what's in those titles is not going to be an excuse. In fact, they'll use it against you to the best of their ability. So perhaps you have some reading to do. I haven't read all of it. I spend quite a bit of time with it, and I spend quite a bit of time watching videos. I mean, you want to see all the different videos. I mean, currently right now, and these are all videos that I've watched at least once. Well, that's archaic. So that doesn't count. That's what I do for fun. But Jax Slater and Brandon Joe Williams doing talking about litigation success with a free car plus cash and settlement. That's a good video to watch. Let's see here. Oh, that's Jim Willie. That's another one about silver. Okay, Monza security interest explained. It's an hour and 49 minutes. Probably should watch that. Let's see. Let's talk contract law. That's an hour and 17 minutes. Should watch that. In fact, pretty much anything Monza puts out. Here, and I'll put it there for you. I'll tell you what. Let me take this. Here is his channel. This is a guy you should know. We'll put it right here. And then let's see here. What else can I put? And see, I won't get in trouble for that because that's an actual YouTube channel. What I was getting in trouble for, I guess, before is because I was putting all these links to off-site and so on. Let's see. That's Johnny Bravo. You don't want to watch that. And you don't want to watch that. Okay, so just a Monza. Oh, and then let's do Bad Wolf. That is absolutely. There's another guy that's worth your time, his videos. And he's got some paid stuff, like I said, and it's super cheap. Good God, reach down for the $5 and pay it. Or $3 a month or whatever the hell it is. It's worth it. He's giving you information that you're not going to get elsewhere. What is it? Bad Wolf. And of course, it's buried. There he is. If you're not familiar. Yay. Let's see here. All right, there's his channel. And let's put that right here. Another one. All right, and then you know about Patriots and Robots. That's a channel that's designed to get you in trouble for the most part, unless you really know what you're doing and want to go next level. Let's see here. And yeah, there's that one. And then it seems to me there should be something here for the 5-star passports. I'd say Copper Moonshine Stills and Brandon Joe Williams. And Brandon Joe Williams also has his own channel here on the YouTubes. Let me hold on a second. Let me give you the channel itself. All right. That's right here on YouTube. You can spend lots of your life on those 3 channels. I think that'll do it. All right, so let me stop sharing. What do you know? Okay. So how long was that? And see, that was only an hour 47. Not too bad. I've done 3 minutes of just blabbing. At least that was covering a document. And again, if you want to know what's going on and know how you're going to prevail and so on, you have to know what they're thinking of you. So the idea, more information, better. Less information, not better. So go and find out about the law itself. Read this document, and then, yeah, don't be that person. But then you're going to find out that some of that stuff is, if you're going to put near, you got to know why. If you're going to put your zip code in, box it in, you got to know why. And then you need to be consistent. And then you got to learn how to sign your name. Silly things like that. Okay. 100th monkey out. Educate yourself. Educate others. I'm going to enjoy watching this probably at 2 times speed. Okay. 100th monkey out. E pluribus unum, Crime Stoppers. Educate self. Educate others. Talk to you soon.